So someone asked me last week and said, "Bro, what camera do you use in doing your videos? Your YouTube videos. I've watched them and I see that your camera or your video quality is good or it's clear. What camera do you use?" And I said, "Bro, I use my phone. And then it was like, "Oh, what phone is that? Is it an iPhone 14, 15, or even 16 Pro?" And I said, "No, I use an iPhone 12." An iPhone 12 mini for that matter. And he was surprised. He was like, "So how do you get your quality to look the way they look?" And so it kind of made me wonder that there might be a couple of people on here who also have the same question. And so I thought I'm going to address that in this video. And then we are going to talk about how I shoot my videos and how I also make them look the way I make them look. So there are two things that make my video look the way they look: lighting and editing. And for lighting, I want to believe I've covered that in one video that I did about how I light up my scene and how you can also light up your scene. If you haven't seen that video, you want to watch that video. And the reason why it's important that you have good lighting is because phones do not have big sensor. Now for cameras like mirrorless cameras and DSLR cameras, what make the image look the way they look is because they have a bigger sensor that can take in light, as well as taking clearer images. The more light the camera can take, the better the image would be. Phone sensors are very small, especially if you're using a phone like mine, which is a 12 mini. The sensor is small. So to want to make your video look as bright or as crispy as you want, is want to have good lighting. Now, good lighting does not necessarily mean have too much lighting where it becomes blown out. You want to have good lighting in the sense where you follow the principle that I spoke about in my video on how to light up your scene. You also want to be in a controlled environment, which is why you see that I do most of my videos at night, because then I can control the light around me. I don't have to worry about sunlight coming from behind my window and making it even look too bright. So you want to be in a controlled environment, and you want to make sure you have good lighting, at least three key lighting system: the key light, your fill light, and your backlight. Once you have that set up, you also want to do a few settings with your cameras. I don't do so much on my cameras. The only thing I do with my phone camera is I just lock in my exposure. And the reason I do that is so that when I'm moving back and forth, or I move closer to the camera, it doesn't change. And because what happens is once your exposure is not locked, the light changes, it fluctuates, and you would have problem editing that in post. So I lock my exposure, but I do not lock my autofocus. They are two different things. What you do when you hold onto your camera when you're videoing with an iPhone is you're locking both your exposure and your autofocus. Now, for talking head video like this, you do not want that, because chances are I may move out of frame and I become blurry because I'm out of frame, or I may move closer to the frame and I become blurry. So you see how my hands are here and my hands are becoming the focus and my face becomes blurry, and I go back and it stops being that. That's because my focus is not locked, but my exposure at the other hand is locked. So even if I do like this, the colors on my face, if you notice, stays the same. And if I take that off, it still stays the same. There is no change in the exposure, in the light that comes into the camera. So you want to lock in just your exposure and leave your autofocus unlocked, just in case you have to point things in your cameras, or you have to move back or move forward. The other part of how I make the video look the way I make them look is now editing. So once I'm done shooting like I'm talking right now, I go to DaVinci Resolve and I do some basic color correction. I don't color grade them because it's YouTube. I'm not in a talking head video. I'm not trying to shoot a film or a documentary. So what we're gonna do is we're going to jump on my computer and I'm gonna show you guys how I color correct my footage that makes them look the way they look. Okay guys, so we are on Resolve currently, and I'm gonna show you guys pretty much again, like I said, how I did. So this is a video playing, as you can hear. And if you can see pretty much how it looks like, it's a bit more whitewashed. One thing I want to do is I want to duplicate this video for reference purpose. So I'm just going to select this video again and I'm going to put it up here, but I'm going to hide this one. So yeah, so color side, this is what I do. I usually don't create too many nodes. Like I said, this is just color correction, my color grading, so I did not create too many nodes. I just create 3 different nodes, and I use alternative Alt S and Alt S to create your nodes. So I have 3 nodes here. Now, what I do with the first node usually is my curves. So I go over to my curves, and if you're not familiar with nodes, node is like, I don't know how to explain it. For people who use people who use Adobe Premiere Pro, you're used to layers, yeah. But people like us that use DaVinci Resolve are used to nodes. So nodes is like layers essentially, just that you're not seeing them stacked like this. You're seeing them stacked, in a the dynamic way that you can always adjust however you want. So think of nodes as layers. That's pretty much how it works. So yeah, so my first node again could be my first layer. What I usually do is my curves. And so what you will notice that I do is I like to bring this down a bit, and also the highlight a bit. Another thing you want to do is you want to find a good spot for editing. So a spot where your eyes open, maybe your mouth, so you can see how it affects every part of your body. So you're not editing where your eyes closed, and then when you now go to where your eyes open, you now find that your eyes is not the right color, so you want to have the spot, on set or on screen. And these curves will depend or change based on the video that you're doing. For some people, they use a slight S curve like I've just done. For some people, they don't use the slight S curve. It depends on how the video looks like. If you're shooting an S log or log C, obviously you want to have the slight S curve. It helps bring back the contrast. So what this side is your shadow side. So anything I do in this side brings my dark side more, and you can still see my highlights, while anything I do on this side blow up my highlights, so you want to just do a little bit of them, bring this down and bring this up just slightly so the black becomes black. If I turn that off, you see how it's whitewashed, and now the dark side is a bit more dark. And that's what I did for my first node. Actually, I just adjust my curve. I don't do anything else with this particular node. So I go to my next node. Now this is where I do the colors. This is where I go to my primary color wheel. And one of the first thing that I do is I like to drop down my highlights slightly. And what that does is it helps the colors in the background to come out a bit more. So if I go back to where it used to be, if you notice the backdrop, the lights are not looking a bit whitewashed. But if I drop down the highlight, you can see that it's a bit, the colors are not coming out a bit more. So I drop down my highlight a bit more. And then I also use color boost instead of saturation. And the reason I do that is because saturation will saturate everything that I have on here, and I do not want that. Color boost, on the other hand, will only make things that are there but not so visible saturated. I don't know if that makes sense. So for instance, the tiniest of the colors that you have on there that are not so prominent is what color boost boosts. While saturation boosts everything, but the tininess of the colors that are already saturated, it just makes everything more saturated. So I do not use saturation, I rather use color boost. So I'm going to do a bit of color boost, just tiny bit of color boost, and you can see already my skin tone is already coming out. I really don't do much, to be honest. Sometimes I go over to, if I see there's too much blue, which I don't mind, I can adjust this guy and go over, to the warmer side. As you can see, as I'm doing that, the blue starts to, drop down a bit, then making my skin look a bit more warm, which is still cool. You want to bring back your skin texture and your skin tone, and pretty much is what I do, to be honest. Sometimes I don't even do this, to be honest. I just leave it as it is. But let me put that back, just tiny bit. Yeah, and that's what I do here. Again, I don't do so much. Sometimes I bring up my mid details. And then the third one, what I do with the third one is where I go to my effects and I add a vignette. And the reason I do this is because I want the focus to be on my face and nothing else. So a vignette does that for you. Now you can see this side is really dark. What I want to do is change this from basic to advanced, so this way I have more control to move this whenever I want to move it to. Bring it down here, adjust the softness I mean to say, and then go to global blend and then reduce that so that it's softer. Now if I do it before, you see how the surroundings are very light, and then after they're a bit darker, but my face is still light, it's still lit rather. Now a quick before and after again. Now this is what it looks like here. This is what it is without the editing. See how whitewash it is, and this is it with the editing. Now that I'm looking at this in contrast to what I have, which is why you want to keep another copy so you're able to compare and contrast. What I have currently looks a bit too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to where I have my curves, and I am going to go back to my curve nodes, and I am going to increase or reduce this, take it back up a bit more so it's a bit more bright, on the mid side, and semi as well. Or alternatively I can go to this side and just increase. So lift gamma again essentially means dark, light, dark, medium, and light. So lift obviously is a dark, gamma is a medium, and gain is a light. So I can come here and lift up the mid tone, so that it's not as dark as it was. I still have my contrast, by the way. Now if I turn this on and I turn this off, it's still bright. It's not so dark, it's still bright. I don't like this yellow tint that I put here, orange tint. I'm going to take it off so it's not looking natural. And what I would rather do is increase my contrast slightly. Yeah, I'd rather do this than that orange thing. And yeah, to finish, pretty much how I do my edits. There's nothing more. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. This is pretty much how I do my edits. Is how I go from this look that we see, to this look. So there you have it, guys. That's pretty much how I do my color grading or color correction, pretty much. For all my videos recently, by the way, I know that my past videos were not looking like this, and that's because I was trying to figure out what works best. But based on my current lighting situation, this is what works best. For you, it might not work that way depending on the kind of lighting situation that you have. So you want to figure out what works best for you, but you also want to understand the basics of color correction and color grading, which I might do a video on just to help you understand how this whole thing works. And once you understand that, it's pretty much easy to it's easy to edit anything and color correct or color grade anything, pretty much, even photos. So yeah, if you found this video helpful or useful or insightful, please like, please share, please subscribe. I realized that 95.5% of people that watch my videos and are subscribed to my channel, which is sad. Please help me out here. But yeah, thank you for staying to this point of the video. Sorry it's a long video. I did my best to make it short, but it is what it is. And yeah, see you guys in the next one, and bye guys.